We've had that in our history. They were called the Puritans in New England, the so-called Pilgrims who came to America and set up a theocracy in what is now Massachusetts, in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Everybody, you know, the history stops with them signing the Mayflower Compact and going on there and inviting the local Indians to Thanksgiving.
And massacring them later on.
102 people got off that boat.
Yes.
Only 40 of them were Puritans. Only 40. They signed the Mayflower Compact because they needed the others to help them till the land and plant the crops and build the houses and everything else. That was fun. That was 1620. 1630, 3,000 more people came by Puritans, came by 1630. I think it was 3,000 by 1630. They started, within a few years, they started making it taxes. They started taxing everybody to support their church, whether you belong to their church or not. Within a few more years, they started demanding that everybody attend church, whether you believe it or not. When by 1660, it was a crime in Massachusetts to disagree with the church elders. Simple as that. There were proposals in the town councils for women to be forced to wear veils. Sound familiar?
Yeah, very.
To wear veils, that women would have to be completely covered. Okay? It didn't happen, but it was seriously discussed in town councils in Massachusetts. Eventually, it became a capital offense, a hanging offense, to commit blasphemy in Massachusetts. This is in this country, Massachusetts, 17th century. All the history books, not all the history books, but the ones that you get in elementary and middle school stop with the first Thanksgiving. You would think that nothing happened from there until the shots were fired at the beginning of the Revolution.
It's a day of mourning,
Okay.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people feel that way.
His name's Indio.
Which means
A lot of people
we all
think-
came
of course.
from God.
I
what it
could
means?
not.
Yeah.
It took me months to read Empire of Liberty, which is a wonderful and huge book, Pulitzer Prize winning, and it's part of the Oxford series on the history of America. It's the history of America from 1815 to 1848. It took me months to read it because I could not read about what was happening to the Indians. I couldn't read. It was, and I said, I can't just skip over this. And I could never read more than a page at a time. It was so disheartening.
Not to mention the slavery.
Yeah, the Africans. I mean, that's at the beginning of the colony.
No. You know, but we're talking about, I'm not knocking it, but I'm talking about there were actual Indian hunts. People got together, had a few drinks, they planned this, and they went and they hunted Cherokees as if they were
Antelope.
animals.
Mm.
This was sport.
Mm.
Andrew Jackson is, I hope, burning in hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's one.
The
Okay, Indio's got
the
them.
point I'm trying to get at, with the Puritans, you had black people who were indentured servants.
Well,
Now, hold on, I'm going to make my point clear.
Mm.
Supposed to be indentured servants. They were indentured servants, then they became free. But greed came in, so then they made you slaves. What came about was a mixture of black, African, Indians, and mestizos.
Mhm.
The whole thing comes down to people that have greed. The minute I got a little bit, I'm king of the hill. I don't want you down with me. So it's the same old game. King of the hill. I'm going to keep you down. And eventually, you know, with the Puritans, and you're right about the taxes and what they did, sir, but some of the Puritans moved out from Massachusetts and went further
Rhode
out
Island.
because they didn't want to be down with that crew. Thank you for letting me
Well,
share.
you know, there's something fascinating about this. What happened, the Puritans are the forefathers of the Congregationalists because
Good point.
what they did, they believed that what they were doing was going back to the original concepts of Christianity. The congregation had only one authority to report to, and that was God. So the congregation in this town and the congregation in that town didn't have, you know, I mean, you over here thought the people over here were heretics, but it didn't much matter because each of you, now, what happened at the beginning when they were all still snuggled on that eastern shore and living together and in terrible weather and all the crap and Indian wars, that some of which they started themselves, some of which the Indians started, back and forth. They became crazies. They didn't want religious freedom. They wanted religious freedom for themselves, and they wanted to put down everybody else. And they did. Now, however, they spread out. More towns are formed. More congregations are formed. And the religion in New England gradually changes and becomes the most liberal religion in America. By the time of the American Revolution, liberalism was the key word in New England religion, the one that had been the worst.
Is that Unitarianism or?
Yeah. Now, which,
Yeah.
by the way, John and Abigail Adams were Unitarians, and their predecessors had to hide that because 70 or 80 years before, Unitarians were hanged in Massachusetts.
Really?
Hanged, because they didn't believe in the Trinity.
Yeah, it's very weird, yeah.
John and Abigail were Unitarians, but their own ancestors were not. Sir?
Well, history is wonderful, but what is humanism doing to make society more humane today?
What does humanism do?
Doing to make society more humane today?
We try to promote a life. We offer people a life based on
Reason.
liberalism, reason, science. We are
Intellect.
part of the fight against the know-nothing and obscurantist bigots in America who would, if they could, turn this country back into the Puritans' vision of America. They distort history. One of the reasons I've become so crazy about American history is because as I learned humanism, I realized how many lies were being said about American history. And it's unbelievable what these people say. Absolutely unbelievable. The guy who writes the Left Behind series,
Yeah.
Tim LaHaye,
Yeah.
huge thing. The guy made the statement 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago. He said, I have no doubt in my mind that were George Washington alive today, he would be on our side as a Bible-believing millennial Christian. You can go through I haven't, but I trust the historians I read. You can go through every one of George Washington's public and private letters, speeches, and everything else, and you will not find one single reference to God in terms of belief. Not one. As Gore Vidal put it one time, if you keep very wittily pointed out. He said, if you exclude the ones, the remarks like, God knows. Okay? George Washington he was often asked, when he became first president, he got letters from clergymen all over. Why isn't God mentioned in the Constitution? What are your beliefs about Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior? He never answered them.
One step further. What specific actions are you taking aside from the intellectual enlightenment to correct the problems in society?
Well, I don't think I can correct it.
Measures and
Haven't you got it all down chapter and verse, John?
Excuse me?
Haven't you got it all down chapter and verse that we could all sign on to? The secrets of the universe and the whole Megillah?
Yeah.
I thought you had it.
Old George, too, because old George was a slaveholder and a murderer. I think that we need to, my question really is where is secular humanism today in terms of moving our agenda forward around the basic issues that concern this country, yes, but humanity? Where is secular humanism? Are we still worried about religion, or have we come to the point as secular humanists where we can begin to deal on our own, deal with the real issues that concern humanity?
Well, that's
Don't you think?
a big question.
Don't worry about religion.
Don't you think religion is a real issue?
Well, I don't think it's a real issue. I think it's an issue. It is if we make it one.
So I think that 98% of the people in America would disagree with you. People on both sides of the issue. They think it's very important. I think it's important because I think that the people who are on the extreme right in this country,
Yeah, the evangelical.
religious, they are, there's no question about it. They would take away, they're preventing my grandchildren, if my grandchildren lived in about 15 or 20 different states in the United States, they would not learn about evolution. They would not learn about the Big Bang. They would not learn about a lot of other scientific, a lot of other science, because it's being held back. They would learn fake history. They would learn fake history. For instance, you're probably very familiar with what happened in Texas just 3 or 4 years ago. 3 years ago.
That guy getting dragged?
The Texas School Board. They just literally rewrote American history because they didn't like it. So they rewrote it. And for instance, children and young people in high school in Texas were reading Martin Luther King. Okay? The Texas School Board said they not only have to, if they read Martin Luther King, they must also read, I forget who, I mean it was something insane. I forget who. And then they also had to read the writings of, not Malcolm X, but somebody else, some black revolutionary, who you go, oh God, this guy's going to kill me. Okay? So I got interested because I saw the religious loonies on the right forming a real problem in this country.
Evangelicals are 40% of Mr. Bush's political support. And they're the, and they're absolute, you know.
But the history hasn't been written yet. I mean, we have not had in America any real written history. Now, that seems to me as a secular issue.
In America, we haven't had any.
Writing the history of the United States, because it hasn't been written. We have, because it has not integrated.
Mr. Zinn tried.
Has not integrated. What happens to people that we call, today we call Mexico? Those have never been a part of the real history of the United States. So we need to write that history. But I think that if we continue to allow the enemy to define our path, we will be overcome by the enemy.
There are many things now that the secular humanists are doing, and it's more than just a philosophy or an attitude for the environment. The first item that came to mind when the gentleman at the other end there asked what can humanists do, think about the Innocence Project. I don't know if John wants to elaborate on that in any way.
No, you know it as well as I do.
Well, there should be DNA testing for people who've been accused of crimes. Perhaps this is something that would have helped Troy Davis just now.
We help support the Innocence Project. We help support other projects that like we get involved in a lot of things. Where are we? I mean, first of all, we're offering a way of life, a philosophy of life, okay? Now, what do you want us to do? And then we'll decide whether we want to do it or not.
Now he's got another point.
The real crisis of the country is jobs, economic, enough food to eat, enough the right to give your kids a decent education.
I all agree.
Well, what's that got to do with religion?
How can humanism impact on that?
Well, how about intellectual thinking and discovery? How about that? I mean, we've been blessed. 200,000. We're coming to know things. We've been living in bloody ignorance for 200,000 years as a species, and we've been cursed or blessed with a self-reflective consciousness that allowed us to ask larger questions about the structure of reality in a unique way. And they had to come up with some sort of understanding of it that would be given some sort of meaning to, the larger issues of what's it all about, Alfie. They've come up with religion creation stories and so forth. We're now coming at the end of that period, 200,000 years, to understanding it in a scientific, intellectual way. We know now, for instance, how the brain works. We know about 30 years ago, we didn't know there were neurotransmitters. We didn't know about brain chemistry. We now have the genome. We've got new capabilities. And they had to have creation stories in order to fill that need for people to have some sense of what's it all about. And now what we can do, we can have a humanist or an intelligent understanding of it rather than the creation stories that were created to ask that. I asked a friend the other day, he was an Orthodox Jewish fellow, right? And I said, what is 5,772? Does anybody know? 5,772 is the year in the Jewish calendar now? Do you know what that is?
Yes, I know.
I know. Does anybody else know?
No.
He told me what it is. That's not, like the Christian era. There was a person, Jesus Christ or something. That's the year that the universe started. Not 100 million years to one human year. That's when the Earth, the universe was created, 5,772 years ago. It's utter nonsense in terms of what we've come to understand. There's all kinds of utter nonsense that's been there for political reasons to give one tribe an advantage over another.
That's right.
Okay.
That's the point I was trying to make.
Okay.
With all the humanism, with all the intellectual progress...
Well, just say the intellectuals. Why don't you just say the humanists, intellectuals?
Let me finish. A terrible habit of interrupting all the time.
Yes, I do.
With all this understanding, all this enlightenment, all this progress in society, look at all the wars we have. Look at all the killing we do. We use a lot of this innovation, a lot of this creativity, a lot of invention to kill other people in a more efficient way.
That's right. It's now more. It's now
so the underlying issue is if everybody has enough to eat, everybody has a decent way of life, you'll be less inclined to kill your neighbors. So how do you adapt the humanism to those ends?
Do you want me to solve the economic problem?
No,
yes, just this evening, right now, and the political.
Humanism can't do that.
How can anybody do that?
I'll tell you what I'll do. You were concerned about...
Oh, he's got ideas on economics.
You were concerned about rights. If you Google my name...
There it is.
You can use it automatically.
All right. No trademark on
I
that?
told you.
No copyright on that,
I
John?
do it as a public service.
Thank you. Okay, that's good.
I told you before, I don't run articles on economics. I don't.
They affect society and how people interact. So there's a tie-in. True.
Tell you what, I'll Google your name and I'll see what you got, okay?
But I think humanism is associated with the intellectual intellectualism. There's anti-intellectualism abroad on all kinds of people's notions about things that are not in touch with what we now understand.
I said last week, this is a country that has a long and honored tradition of anti-intellectualism.
Yeah, amen. Men can sit it.
This is the country where for the first time, people were allowed to speak out and say what they wanted and damn the government. And it's written into the first 43 words of the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment. It's right there. It says we can say whatever the hell we want, except yell fire in a crowd of
But
people.
it's coming under threat.
We can say it. Now, the problem with that is that the freedom of speech applies also to the stupidest people in America.
And there seem to be a lot.
Everybody, well, there's always a lot.
Yeah.
There's always going to be, as we progress, as we evolve, and where suddenly the whole human race is 30 times smarter than it is now,
It's going
there's still going to be
exponential.
a big
John,
gap
it's going,
between
if
the
I may,
brightest and
it's
the
going,
slowest.
it's going
And by the way-
exponential.
And by the way, you know, you get off on this thing about we develop ways to kill each other more efficiently. Well, yeah, but you know something? Aside from psychopaths, people today don't believe, don't sacrifice children. They don't believe that there are witches and warlocks. They don't believe in possession by evil spirits. We're coming along. We're getting there.
Because I'm not knocking humanism, I agree with you. I think that's one way to change society. It's probably the most effective one. But another part of it is the economic aspect as well. Because
Yeah.
why do you have wars? Because people want
Well,
what others
We
have.
sacrifice other folks' children. I mean, not to understand this.
What?
Nations and
We have a new voice.
maybe it's been a major sacrifice.
We have children being sacrificed every day in this country. Because
I mean,
the Catholic Church, when you have a Catholic priest that abuses the kids, and the parents are letting it happen, those children are sacrificed again and again.
Yeah, but that's
Please,
not all the time.
please take the good
You're
news.
always
And
gonna
I
have an
mean,
exception.
I meant
And they don't-
nobody's putting a baby on an altar and sticking a knife in.
And,
they used to do that. Yeah.
Is that in
and
July?
when they,
Let's not change the meaning of words, okay?
I'm
But
not
I think
changing
we ought to
the
give some
law.
meaning to words. I think we ought to give some meaning to words because kids are being placed on altars. Black kids, brown kids, red kids, yellow kids in this country are dying every day. Are
Yes.
being abused every day.
But
I
you-
think humanism needs to address the issue of economics through education.
No, I don't.
Education is a major issue. And I think that humanism is designed, as a second humanist, I am dedicated to the development of a real education curriculum that allows us to develop in kids' minds a full understanding of concepts, a clear understanding of philosophy, so that when they go forward, they understand that it's not just about me, it's about all.
I think that's being forced upon us, whether we like it or not.
You know, and besides, you're quite certain, it seems, that you know what a clear understanding.
Oh no.
Okay. Because there are other people who would say, nonsense. If you don't first believe in the same God that I believe in and subscribe to the same set of beliefs and practices that I believe in and that I practice, none of the rest of it means a thing. That's what we're facing in this country
But
today.
if we develop a clear education curriculum where we're going to begin to
But
train,
those people will
educate.
say you're not allowed to change it.
No. When you're talking to somebody who's got anybody's face, any place in history, any time, and say, I'm going to change. No,
I'm sorry,
we'll
just-
do it. We need to make change. I come from that.
Yeah,
side.
okay.
It's up to us to make the change, but it was up to us to write the agenda for the change. And until we are prepared to write that agenda, by being clear that we are the ones to do it,
Oh, okay.
it's not going to
They
happen.
believe that
Who
they
is
want
the
to.
we?
No, I don't worry about they. Let they do what they got to do. If they get in our way, we kick their butt.
Have
We
you
have to
written
move
the
on.
agenda?
We move on.
This is the problem we face.
How can
We're a
you-
bifurcated society. New voice.
How can you guarantee that in your society everybody 100% are good.
This is what I'm
And
just...
nothing is negative.
This is what I'm saying. You're saying what I'm saying. I can't guarantee it. Nobody can. Nobody can.
So in that case, you are at the same level like anybody else
Yes.
in America.
Yes.
So what is the purpose of the society to exist?
What is the purpose of human existence, or the evolutionary purpose? No, you can go to, no, with all due respect, I think you can go to that, and now you've got, like we talked about Michio Kaku and Brian Greene, they're coming now to string theory. All right, Indio, go ahead.
Can I speak, teacher?
Go on, talk. Talk. Indio has the floor.
Thank you very much. I concur with the sister over here. Nothing is ever absolute 100%. And what we're talking about, all you have to do is read Animal Farm. The pigs were the workers, and we're after. So it comes down to force, such as you, Harold. You speak up when people are talking to give your voice. So the one who has the loudest voice
and megaphone and communications.
The media is the way. In order to get people to think your way or my way or the highway, it's TV.
Thank you.
Cable.
Well, this is being taped with new technology. John Stein.
I was asked to do some research recently, and I found quite interesting that it goes back to the old Egyptian pharaohs, where the pharaohs themselves did not believe in the sun god and all these different deities. They just used the religious concept to subdue the populace in order for them to rule. Which comes back to the 21st century. Religion and the ultra-right Republicans have the same concept. 98% of the population are gullible, ignorant, superstitious people. So we might as well take their money before somebody else does.
Well, that's one.
So it comes to economics. The way to end this cycle is to start with kindergarten. Rather than teaching reading, writing, arithmetic, in the first place, on the first day of any schooling, learn analytical thinking, reasoning, so that the child will learn to understand, to reason for him or herself. That way, they will learn to read, write, and mathematics quickly, more easily, and down the line, in middle school and even in university, will be able to reason for themselves. When they reason for themselves, they will understand the concepts of non-religion or analytical thought. They won't even enter that realm of superstition. The problem with that is the elite class will then no longer have the power over the multitude of people.
That's what we think about that.
So why will they let you do it?
They won't let you do it. That's why the first thing the Republicans do is cut the funding to education.
Sure.
That's the first thing they do. Because they know lack of education means cheap labor. Cheap labor, they rule, they can build all the companies, corporations, and products which will draw the economic values to themselves. It's a simple bullying. It's simply power. It's a power play.
It's always been like that.
And keep us servants to them in the sense that we are servant to work.
Exactly. So the only way you can overcome it is by furthering analytical, rational reasoning.
And that's what
humanism is about.
That's what we do. We're trying to promote analytical, rational thinking. And that's what we do.
And all he's saying is let's move that to
it'll result in enlightened leadership.
He's saying to kindergarten, I say move it to the Mama Betty, but let's
You say move it to the...
that intellectual, rational reasoning to the educational arena, to the youngest of the young.
Yeah.
Of course.
How?
That we fight for that curriculum.
How? The question is how.
Also,
That's what we have to
in
do.
addendum, I just want to point out the problem with the Texas School Board. The reason it's such a danger is because they have the funding for the printing of these history books. And once they print those books, because of economics, are distributed throughout the entire
It
country.
actually works the other way. The publishers are right here in New York for the most part, like McGraw-Hill.
Yeah.
But Texas is the second biggest
Purchaser.
Exactly. Thank you. And so, unless the textbook conforms to what Texas, they have to print two different editions,
Which is too costly.
Which is too costly.
Right.
So they knuckle under to Texas. By the way, the board was voted out. The board
Not
has
in charge.
changed.
The
And the Texas board has been revolutionized just in the last year. Not revolutionized, but the worst of them have been voted out, and they're back to some semblance of sanity. Meanwhile, the same thing is being fought in Kansas and
Arkansas.
and I'm sure in Arkansas, I don't know specifically, but I wouldn't be surprised. But I know in Kansas and I know in Colorado, they're fighting the same fight. The fight goes on all the time.
The Air Force Academy.
I don't even want to get into that. I want Mikey Weinstein to run for president. You know.
Oh, you go ahead, John. Go ahead.
Fred. Then you're running into the problem of people do today believe in witches and stuff like this.
It's a few, but not the majority of people.
No, not the majority,
But it's a sizable minority.
but there are a sizable minority, because my great-grandmother was accused of being a witch. Now that happened at the late 19th, early 20th century. She lived until 1985. People were still talking about it, and I had to go to court for to have custody of my children, and the judge actually said, I'm not supposed to say this, but if you're not a Christian and believe God and the Bible, you cannot be a parent. So I had to... He said
That's what I'm talking about!
and he said I had to go to a church and have the preacher write that he approves of me as a parent. And while sitting there, the preacher was there talking about witches and stuff like, and he was serious about there are witches and there are spirits and evil specters that you can't see, and it's just bullshit.
Of course there are people who believe this, but not the majority.
Christian religion is what it was.
But it's a very sizable minority that believes this nonsense. And we have, whatever we do, we've got to have some way of getting a voice over this vocal minority. The people that are listening to Sarah Palin, she believes that stuff, and she had the preacher on. It was on Countdown. They had the film of this. He was talking about witches and witchcraft, and they're telling people in Africa this nonsense, and now they're throwing their children away, and people do that here because of this nonsense.
There is still that. Yes, there's no question about it. It's not the way it used to be. But, you said somebody's got to raise their voices. That's what we're trying to do. That's what secular humanists are trying to do. We're trying to raise our voices. We're trying to make ourselves known. I am here talking to you. I went on his program last week.
Yeah.
We are running 4 different regular events every month, plus others. We support things like the Innocence Project. We do these events every month so that we can bring in more people, and we raise money to help others. We have been doing it. We intend to continue doing it. We want to reach out to more people like you. I am here because so many of you people have the opportunity to spread more word, the word even further. That's what I'm here for. Not to see myself.
Well,
To say that there isn't something and there isn't children being sacrificed, it's stuff that is happening, and it happens every day in the United States.
in the world.
And when you say that it isn't happening here, or it isn't happening in the world, that's
I didn't hear him say
defeating
that.
our purpose. And I'd agree with you about other things, but about people not believing in witchcraft and people aren't sacrificing children, I know that isn't so because I was sacrificed that way. And
You were not put on an altar and stabbed.
I wasn't stabbed, but
That's what I'm talking about. There used to be, I mean, the community would come out and stand around the altar and watch somebody in a robe stab a child.
yes,
That's
Rip his heart out
yes,
and
but
offer it
We
up
don't
to
do
God.
that anymore.
We don't do that.
Is that done on
In
lynching?
Mexico.
How different is that than a lynching shoot?
Plenty different.
How?
It's enormously different.
How different?
That's deliberate murder.
What's a
That's
lynching?
deliberate murder.
Lynching is not a
And
deliberate
that is
murder.
community sanctioned.
And it's community sanctioned.
It's community sanctioned by Bull Connor.
Now, when he's
That's what
talking about sacrificing children by priests abusing them, that's not community sanctioned.
What percentage? In what percentage?
Nor is it murder.
I don't know that.
Oh,
Well, let's get to the bottom of it. It's
Let's
our
not
fault.
change the
It's
meaning
your
of the word.
fault, his fault, it's all our fault. Because in America, every American citizen has the constitutional right to believe and to say whatever they think. But it's your fault if they get elected. You should not vote for them, and you should tell your community not to vote for them. We have a platform of Republican idiots. Not one of them has made a sane statement, but yet they have a great following. And whose fault is that? It's your fault. Because you don't dissuade those fanatics from following these idiots. And you don't persuade other people to vote for more a sane Congress and for a more sane executive. It is your fault. It is our fault because that these people get elected. We have the right to vote.
Yes,
But
I've
part
had
of
it
it's
since
still-
Amen. Amen.
Part of it,
1965, so that's... I have the right since 1965.
Mississippi, Mississippi.
election reform.
I like that.
America too, because New York,
You don't have election
like it,
reform,
I like
and
it.
special interest, moneyed interest,
Thank you.
are going to take away your rights. So you need election reform on every level in this country, along with humanism thought. That's
Well.
how to change the system.
James Joyce had Dedal to say, history is a nightmare, one could add, of injustice. The whole world has been unjust in terms of where we may be becoming now. It's always been unjust. There's always been a few people have the power, the emperors of Rome, the kings of the dynastic states, and the people were serfs on a feudal estate. We're still the same. You have a few people who own and have all the power, and we've got a little thing going downtown now. Maybe there's some uprising. A metaphor is a human organism, 100 trillion cells in a human organism, and every cell matters. Every cell has to have, there's a thing where everybody can realize their potential. We're coming to a time of qualitative transformation in the historical development, and I think it's worthwhile to get at some idea of purpose to the whole evolutionary process. Bucky Fuller used to say that he would cast about for what's it all about? And he would say that the evolutionary process got started 3.8 billion years ago on this third planet and this planet in this universe was an anti-entropic function. It moved across entropy and brought increased patterns of conscious understanding to the process of which we are a part. We're now coming to a point where we can understand that it's extended consciousness, technology, intelligence. We can build a world differently. We've now got it to the point where the weapon systems that he said, they've become since about 1970, species lethal. That is, the weapons systems, if they're unleashed, will eliminate the entire Homo sapiens species, the leading edge. There's that. And on the other side, we have come to a point where we have a capability of nourishing every cell in that organism of the human community in a way that we simply haven't had. It's coming exponential now. The ability to move information. We're coming to the end of a gestating period where we're in the womb and we're about to come into a new relationship in the cosmos. You could relate it to speciation or punctuated equilibrium. That's the order of the time in which we live. Isaac Asimov said this is the defining generation. That's something we ought to think about in big terms. One last little wrinkle on that. The thing about Kaku and Green, they say that string theory, the mathematics of string theory, is elegant. It's elegant. And it may very well indicate that this universe, 13.8 billion years ago, which we have a photograph of, only 200,000 years after its occurrence, from science, from extended technology, understanding intelligence, not conjuring of stories and that, but we have a, that is very likely, this universe is very likely, by the mathematics of a larger order, part of a parallel universe system. The important thing that has to do is the second law of thermodynamics, which is taken to be real by all science and so forth, that all systems move toward entropy to the level, to the limits of the system, toward entropy, to disarray in a closed system. So we don't even know that this is a closed system or an open system. We're coming to a point where the understanding of that is making it synergetic. There will be a resonancy more than the sum. So we're coming to a fulfilling moment in the evolutionary process. And that's a larger context in which all these political things could be put. But we have transcended material scarcity at the level of capability. And we have a capability that our historically inherited institutions won't allow us to do. All the historical institutions were formulated within a condition of scarcity. We're transcending scarcity, material scarcity, for the human society and the ecology. That's the measure of the challenge, and it takes intellectual understanding, not mythic things, the traditional things. The outdated institutions we've inherited have to be subsumed, they have to be incorporated, they have to be anchored to, but we have to get a larger context. So that's what I have to say, and that's going to come out of the humanist intellectual community. Not all the myths, not only power brokers, all that. It's going to come out of the intellectual community. Humanists are a proud tradition in that tradition. I thank you.
You're absolutely correct.
Harold has to prove he's an intellectual. That's why I like it.
Well, no, but intellectuals are to be intellectuals are to be not to be what do you call it? Knocked down. It's an anti-intellectual bias that's abroad against intellectual understanding, because it steps on the toes of all these paradigms and memes and things we've inherited out of history. But we got to get a larger picture. And where else is it going to come?
No,
but from the intellectual community.
What will happen is the Roman Empire ceased to be a Roman Empire simply because non-Roman, the Goths, the Visigoths, the Vandals, exceeded their numbers. As simple as that.
No. That's part of a historic. No, I'm trying to say that's not. That's far too small. That's part of a narrative. 200,000 years. There have been rises of empires. We got all that.
Intellectualism doesn't matter in the face of numbers.
No, but the Roman Empire fell. Then you had dynastic states for 1,000 years. Then you had technological development. You had the United States Revolution, the Enlightenment, the Scottish. All of this historical. But we're coming to the end of the human experience. We're coming to the end of the human. We're either going to annihilate or we're going to liberate the entire human species and the ecology in a new relationship in the universe, and that begins to be things in which you can fit these other things. You got to have an overall, and it's from the intellectuals that comes. Intellectual, not some mythic story. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, I truly believe that secular humanism, well, the secular spiritual humanism, or secular humanism, without spiritualism. It has the capacity to liberate this land.
And it's going exponential.
As long as it does not get tied up call religion.
Well, religion, you can get a religion out of a political Marxism or something. Any kind of thing that gives power. The thing is, it's all got to be contained within a new understanding. That's what the intellectuals bring. They're outside the envelope, and they should not be discouraged. That's all.
Amen.
And we're getting to the point where it's extended consciousness. It's technology. It's not like evolution. It's extended, and it's going L-shaped. It's like birth pangs. You're in the womb. It's like we're coming to the end of that. We get to the point where we can wipe out the species with that weapons thing that we've been doing by realpolitik. That's have to come to an end. But you got to have a way of liberating the
Yeah, but we have
humanity.
examples. The civil rights movement was an example that you could force people who brought you the God stuff and the stick and we've been legend you with God. Altars were built at the church where the auction block was housed in the church and all this stuff. But when they were faced with a different way of thinking,
Yeah. Well, yeah.
people fell back and they were helpless before us.
Well.
They didn't understand.
Yeah, but it's now. It wasn't 1776. It wasn't in the year 1000. It's now. It's been 200,000 years, and this is the defining moment in terms of evolutionary development itself and understanding the universe. It's an incredibly exciting time to be alive, but it's also challenging because it challenges all of our inherited institutions. All of them are out of date. They were developed within a context that we're coming into it if we make it. So we're either going to liberate and come into a new relationship in the universe, or we're going to annihilate this organization of things within a thermodynamic understanding. It's an amazing, exciting time to be alive. John, I didn't mean to go on. I'm sorry.
John's over there getting out.
But listen, Margarita, come here, please. I didn't. Come. Okay.
But we should have continued more into the analytical thinking and the social interactions of the society.
Yes, he did a great job.
A great job, yeah.
I don't know.
The problem with democracy is that the populists are elected.
Okay, wait a minute. We've just, no, not quite. Please, Mr. Langer, sit down, please. Everybody sit down.
I'm running for the Senate, so y'all don't leave.
She's running for this one.
I want to give you copies.
Yeah, we want to do that. Don't leave, and I want to get in touch, Fred, I want you to sit down, Fred.
Wait a minute. Wait. I can't move fast.
Oh, okay, I know, because you got that cripple thing. Sit down. Okay. No, I need that. Okay. It is Fred Brass's birthday. Everybody, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Freddie. Happy birthday to you. Yay! Happy birthday, Fred. Happy birthday. Now let's cut that cake and eat that stuff.
It's an excellent presentation. That's why don't feel like you're...
So I guess maybe we're done now, John. Thanks a lot. I hope so. I hope you had enough, John. You had enough finally?
That means it's been excellent.
Harold, your summary was terrific.
Well, I know.
I want to give away the newsletter before everybody leaves.
Listen, Lee.
Oh, God.
54.
54. Ladder 54. God, I remember when I was premier ladder.
That's good.
So I need your...
Yeah.
I'm also looking at